Basement of La Penta. This is WICR.
Hello, Iona College. Welcome back to the WICR Halloween Radiothon. The third time we've been doing this. This year we're doing it with a Halloween spin to it, and it's been a real lot of fun so far. We've had a couple people doing shows so far, going until 12 o'clock a.m. I gotta be honest, I tried to get this to go even later. Did not get approved though. They wanted us to shut it down at 12 a.m. So you know what? We comply. We do what they ask us to do. But we're going to keep on moving here. I just went on a huge rant. A lot of LeBron James stuff. Had a lot of fun. I mean, I'm going to be honest, folks. I try to work LeBron James in every conversation I can. Even right now, when I come back from the break, I said I got it all out about LeBron. Well, I lied because I'm talking about LeBron again. But I'm going to stay true to my word partially and continue with the Halloween talk. Now, one of the other things, I'm a huge sports guy. At my core, I'm an all sports guy. That's what I live and breathe. It's my job. But when I get to relax, I'm a video game guy. Some people relax, they like to watch their TV shows. Some people are movie people. I'm a video game guy. I like the immersion. I think with movies, it's nice to kind of sit there and not think. Video games, I just like the immersion because you're kind of thinking critically. You're engaged. You get so much more invested. I think with a movie, I enjoy it, but I don't get invested in it. When I'm playing a game, I'm absorbed. I'm invested in it. And I think, especially with some of the narratives we've had in recent games like The Last of Us, just the immersion, connecting with these characters has just been unbelievable what video games have done. But we're moving into it because a lot of people, when I talk to Rob and Armand when we're back on at 11:12, I'm sure they're going to be more movie people, but on Halloween, it's always been a thing for me. I've always enjoyed playing the scary games, especially the survival horror ones. You've got some great ones out there. IGN, before I was coming on the show, they have a very good list of the top 10 of all time. Now, I haven't played all of these. You have games like Silent Hill. Now, Silent Hill, very iconic franchise for just their survival horror elements. A lot of people consider them to be the go-to for survival horror thing. So I'm sure for Halloween, if you want a good video game to really scare your pants off, you go with Silent Hill, any of them. So I think the later ones haven't done as well. But the originals on the PlayStation 1, Silent Hill 2, people just can't say enough about them. I've never gone to them, so I can't really say. Then you have Condemned at 9 on the IGN list. An early game that came out very on the life cycle of the Xbox 360. That seems like so long ago. Now we're already with the new system. So Condemned, haven't played that one. But number 8, now this is one of my go-tos, one of my favorites of all time, the Dead Space series. Now Dead Space has kind of changed a little bit. There's Dead Space 1, 2, and 3. It's kind of changed a little bit but the first one, the survival horror in it was just perfect. One of my favorite games of all time. This is definitely a Jersey Joe go-to video game for Halloween. For me, it is. If I was going to play a survival horror game on Halloween, which I have done many times in the past, Dead Space would probably be number 1 or 2 on my list. Now, I'll read you the little description if you've never played it before. I think IGN gave it a good one. Isaac Clarke's first foray into the USG Ishimura defined a generation of survival horror, combining action and exploration elements from Resident Evil 4 with the classic tension and dread of Alien. Dead Space felt like something new. Its refreshing spin on sci-fi horror had players control over combat in a way survival horror typically doesn't, but restrained itself enough to limit what Clarke had access to. And I think that's a good point there, and they continue. Like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, it forced players to feel confined and almost incapable of dealing with the frantic horrors before them. Dead Space felt lonely in that more than its monsters made it scary. The helplessness and stress of isolation in an unwelcoming place with limited ammunition and no army behind you put a stamp on this game. Now, I couldn't agree more. I think their last line felt lonely in that more than its monsters made it scary. And I think that is spot on because for the game, for the context for people who haven't played, is you're on this ship and you get a distress signal and it's a mass. This is a huge ship and it's so big and you would expect, just hundreds, maybe thousands of people to be working on this ship and there's just no one. It's dead quiet and Obviously, there's monsters and things in there. Do a very good job, and these are pretty creepy monsters there. And the thing is just being alone on this kind of journey. You're this one engineer trying to figure out what happened here, and you're just all alone on this just massive ship. I think that's part of it. You are an engineer. Your name is Isaac Clarke, so you're not an army grunt guru type guy going in there with all this training. You're an engineer who just uses all the tools that he can. Now, I gotta be honest, the tools in Dead Space, most army people would be pretty happy to have, because you've got some incredible, you got plasma cutters, saw blades, flamethrowers. So it's not like Isaac's using a hammer and a wrench to kind of fight his way through the ship. He's got pretty good weapons in this game, and they're a lot of fun to use. You've got a line beam. I mean, this game is insane with the kind of weapon combinations you have. Dead Space, though, is an excellent game. I mean, just every corner you hear noises coming through the vents. These necromorph things are very interesting, though, because I think we've kind of fallen into this perception with the zombie genre that what's the way to put down a zombie? I mean, I could probably ask anybody. They would say you go for the brain, you go for the head. That is not the way to take down a necromorph. A necromorph, if you shoot it in the head, it is still going to come after you. It has very sharp claws and things like that, very sharp things all over the place. And what it does is if you just shoot off the head, it still can attack you. What you have to do is dismember the limbs. Dismembering the limbs is the go-to thing for the Dead Space series. That's the way you take down a necromorph. I kind of feel funny talking about dismembering limbs on the WICR Radiothon, but it's Halloween. It ties into it. I've never talked this kind of thing on the morning show, so it's kind of a change of pace here, but it's very fun. The Dead Space series, I would check out 1 or 2 for Halloween. I would go with 1 above all. But if you check out 2 as well, 2 is also excellent. 3 kind of gets away from that. Let's go, though. They have at number 7, the Resident Evil remake. Now, the Resident Evil series is probably the most well-known of all of the survival horror genres. I mean, the series is just so iconic, dating back to the PlayStation. A lot of fans are upset because the series has really gotten away from its roots. Since Resident Evil 4, which was excellent as well, definitely would be one I would recommend for the same type of thing for Halloween. After Resident Evil 5, which I loved, which a lot of people didn't like, it really got away from that survival horror. It's more turned into a survival action-y game, and I think a lot of fans aren't happy with that. Resident Evil 6 tried to get back to that, but I don't think they did the best job because they kind of had 3 separate campaigns in there. So I think Resident Evil 6 didn't really know what it wanted to be. It was kind of trying to do too much, and it was kind of quantity over quality, which I didn't really like. I was upset with Resident Evil 6, but I did like Resident Evil 5. That would be, I mean, it's not survival horror, but it's just a great video game. It really is. But if you wanted to go with a scary one, I mean, you go with the original Resident Evils. Now, part of the problem here, though, is I don't know if these games age very well. I think part of the reason they were so iconic and so for being just scary for people was when it came out. I mean, you go back to the PlayStation 1 days, the Nintendo 64 days. I mean, you go to what we have now and you compare them. Do they hold up scary-wise? Probably not. I mean, I think back in the day when you were playing these games, compared to what everything else that was out, there was nothing like it. And it really was revolutionary for its time. But I think when you're talking about today, you've got to look for something else because just the pixelation of some of the characters in these games, I just don't know if they would do it for people because back in the day, though, definitely very iconic for it. So you give it, that's why they go with number 6, Resident Evil 2. Again, a lot of what I was just saying there. 5, they have Amnesia, The Dark Descent. Never played that one. Then 4, Eternal Darkness. Then you go on to the 3-spot System Shock 2. Very well acclaimed game. Again, I haven't played it. You go to 2, Fatal Frame 2. And like I said when I started it off, IGN puts the number 1 at Silent Hill 2. Now, those Silent Hill games, I don't know. I stay away from them. Dead Space is good enough for me. But one that I didn't see on this that I was very surprised in was BioShock. The BioShock series is very well critically acclaimed. The first BioShock is more, I mean, it's got very scary elements to it. It really does. I mean, you're in this underwater city called Rapture, and it was meant to be a utopia, and there was just this gigantic civil war, and there was these these drugs that kind of gave people enhanced powers, which kind of turn them insane, and you're pretty much running around a dilapidated, just destroyed utopia with all these crazy people running around. It is definitely it'll scare you. It really will. I mean, again, it's kind of like with Dead Space, where you do have more help. There's definitely more people there who are interacting with you, but at the same time, you're still very, very alone, and I think that's the key to making a survival horror game, for getting people drawn into it, especially for a video game. Because for a movie, I think you watch it, and at the end of the day, you can just sit there and enjoy it, because it's a movie at the end of the day. You know it. You're kind of just sitting there, and you're on the edge of your seat sometimes, but at the end of the day, there's no consequence, because it's just a movie. You're just sitting there, you're relaxing, you're enjoying it. When you're playing one of these games, you're in there. That character is a reflection of what's going to happen. I mean, you control what happens. You're in the driver's seat, and I think that kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, because it's all about getting immersed, investing me into it, and I think that's one thing that the survival horror games really do well. I mean, even for a thing like Halloween, you could turn to a game like The Last of Us. The Last of Us, one of the best games, probably one of the most better acclaimed games of this last generation of all time, most people consider. I mean, I think a lot of people consider the best narrative of all time. I certainly do as well. Now, it was released very late in the life cycle of the PlayStation 3. It was recently remastered for the PlayStation 4, so you've got a lot of opportunities to go for, but it's kind of like, it's more about the journey between the two characters, but it's in a world where obviously it's not zombies, it's more of this fungus. It's actually a real thing where it infects bugs, and it takes over their minds, and they just have no control over what they do, and they attack the other herd and things like that. It's very scary stuff, and the fact that it's real is terrifying, but it only affects bugs as of we know, so I think we're good to go. So if it does happen, though, you go play The Last of Us, you'll know what to do. So it serves two purposes. You'll enjoy your night on Halloween playing it, and you'll know what to do if anything bad ever happens. So, going over those lists, though, there's a lot of really good ones. I used to always go with ones like Dead Rising. Now, Dead Rising, not the scariest one, but there's a lot of zombies, and it's a good one. You go with the Left 4 Dead games as well. So, there's a lot of good go-to video games for the Halloween occasion. Some people go with movies, that's fine. Some people like the scary TV shows, maybe The Walking Dead, that's what I would probably go with. That's fine as well, but for me, for some people, you gotta go with the video games, just getting immersed in there. Dead Space, talking this much about Dead Space, BioShock, all the other ones, making me very, very interested in playing those again, but far too busy. We've got an even bigger thing on Friday. The Cleveland Cavaliers playing their second game against the Chicago Bulls. That takes priority over all else, but while I leave you on that note, again, it's kind of funny. I mean, I kept saying I was done with LeBron, but folks, I lied. I really did. I've talked more LeBron than I thought I was going to, but when we come back, it's some more sports, some more stories that broke, maybe break down a little more NBA. The Spurs game is coming on soon. Can't wait to watch them raise that banner, so you stay with us, and we will be right back.